The Art of Strategy by Avinash K, Dixit, and Barry J. Nailabuff. Picture this. You and I are about to play a simple game. I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 100. Your mission? Guess it. Get it right on your first try, and you walk away with a crisp $100 bill. Now, we both know the odds here aren't exactly in your favor. 1 in 100 is pretty brutal, so let's spice things up. I'll give you 5 chances. After each wrong guess, I'll throw you a bone and tell you whether you're too high or too low. The faster you nail it, the bigger your payday. Second guess? $80. Then $60, $40, and finally $20 if you need that 5th attempt. After that, game over. So, what's your opening move? If you're thinking, like most people right now, the number 50 just popped into your head. Makes perfect sense, right? It cuts the range exactly in half and maximizes the information you get from my response. It's the kind of elegant, logical approach an engineer would be proud of. All right, you go with 50, and I respond, too high. What's next? You're probably leaning toward 25, right? Same strategy. Split the new range down the middle. I tell you, too low. Third guess? Maybe 37? Too low. Fourth try. How about 42? Still too low. Okay, here's where it gets interesting. You're down to your final guess. $20 hanging in the balance. You know the number is somewhere between 42 and 50. That gives you 7 possibilities. 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, or 49. Which one do you choose? Now, if you were playing against a computer that randomly selected a number, your halving strategy would be absolutely flawless. But here's the thing. You're not playing a computer. You're playing me. And in this imaginary scenario, I'm rather attached to my $100 and would prefer not to hand them over to you. So flip the script for a moment. Put yourself in my shoes. Would I ever pick 50? Of course not. That's the obvious first guess. I'd be handing you money instantly. Would I go with 25? Or the extremes like 1 or 100? Nope. I'd pick something I figured you'd struggle to find. And right here, right in this moment, we've stumbled onto the beating heart of what we're about to explore together. It's the central revelation from a book that's quietly shaped how leaders, negotiators, and decision-makers think for decades. The Art of Strategy by Avinash Dixit and Barry Nailabuff. This book teaches you one profound, world-changing skill: how to see through someone else's eyes. The secret isn't just about being clever. It's about recognizing that every person you deal with, your boss, your parents, your friends, your competitors, is also playing the game. They have their own goals, their own worries, and they're trying to guess your next move just as much as you're trying to guess theirs. What if I told you that by the time we're done here, you'll not only understand why your final guess in our little game might be wrong, but you'll start seeing these hidden games everywhere. You'll notice them in why companies offer mail-in rebates instead of just cutting the price, why politicians often sound eerily similar, and even why it was once brilliant military strategy for a general to set his own ships on fire after landing on enemy shores. This isn't just a book summary. It's a guide to a completely different way of thinking. It's about realizing that life isn't just stuff that happens to you. It's a series of games you can learn to recognize, understand, and play remarkably well. So, back to our game. 1 guess left. The number's between 42 and 50. You've now realized I've been trying to stay 1 step ahead of you. What's your choice? Maybe 49? It feels clever, slightly off the beaten path. If you picked 49, well, I have to congratulate you for walking straight into my final trap. The number I was thinking of was 48. You see, I figured you'd eventually catch on to my strategy. I knew you'd realize I was dodging the obvious choices. So I led you down a path, then used that very logic to mislead you one last time. To beat me, you would have needed to think 1 level deeper. You'd have to think, he thinks I'll think this way, so I should do that instead. And that, my friend, is the art of strategy in a nutshell. It's not just about your moves, It's about the intricate dance of two minds trying to read each other, and today, we're going to learn the choreography. So where do we begin this journey into strategic thinking? We start with the most fundamental principle, the one that governs everything else. Dixit and Nailbuff put it simply. Rule number 1, look forward and reason backward. Sounds almost poetic, doesn't it? But packed into that simple phrase is the power to untangle some of life's knottiest problems. Most of us go through life looking forward. We make a decision, see what happens, then make the next decision. A strategist flips this completely. They jump to the end of the game first, figure out what happens there, then work their way backward to the present, making the right choice at every turn. The perfect illustration of someone who never learned this lesson? Good old Charlie Brown. Year after year, Lucy holds that football. Year after year, she promises him that this time, she won't yank it away. Charlie Brown stands there at the starting line. He's got a choice, run and kick, or walk away. Looking forward, he sees two possibilities. Either he kicks the ball to the moon, or he ends up flat on his back, staring at the sky in defeat. But a strategist doesn't stop there. They look forward to the next move. If Charlie runs, the decision isn't his anymore, it's Lucy's. And what are her options? Let him kick it, or pull it away. To reason backward, Charlie needs to climb inside Lucy's head. What does Lucy want? We all know the answer. She gets a twisted satisfaction from watching him fail. So from her perspective, pulling the ball away is always the superior choice. Once he knows what Lucy will do at the end, the choice at the beginning becomes crystal clear. If he runs, he will land on his back. Therefore, his only winning move is not to play at all. He should walk away. Of course, Charlie Brown never does. He's the eternal triumph of hope over experience. But we can learn from his repeated mistake. This simple comic strip holds the key to analyzing far more serious situations. Imagine a businessman, let's call him Charlie, all grown up, who gets approached by an entrepreneur named Fredo in a developing country with a shaky legal system. Fredo's got a pitch. Invest $100,000 with me, and in 1 year, I'll turn it into $500,000. We split the profits. You'll more than double your money. Charlie's at move number 1. He can invest or walk away. If he doesn't invest, game over. Nothing gained, nothing lost. If he does invest, in a year's time, the next move belongs to Fredo. Fredo will face two choices: honor the contract and share the money, or disappear with the entire $500,000. To make the right decision today, Charlie must look forward and reason backward. A year from now, what's in Fredo's best interest? With $500,000 in hand and a legal system unlikely to track him down, Fredo can choose between handing Charlie back $250,000 or keeping all $500,000 for himself. The choice is pretty obvious. He'll disappear. Knowing this, Charlie sees that the invest path leads directly to losing $100,000. So his best move today? Don't invest. This way of thinking, mapping out the sequence of choices, is what game theorists call a game tree. And this process of starting at the end and working backward is the single most important skill for any sequential game, where players take turns. Let's test it on something more complex, a challenge that played out on the TV show Survivor. Two tribes, Sukjai and Chuegan, faced a competition. 21 flags stood in a field. Each tribe, on their turn, could remove 1, 2, or 3 flags. The tribe that grabbed the last flag won immunity. Sukjai went first. They huddled up, strategized, and confidently pulled out 2 flags, leaving 19. Good move? Let's look forward and reason backward. The endgame is snagging that last flag. If it's your turn, and there are 1, 2, or 3 flags left, you can grab them all and win. Now reason backward 1 step. What if it's your turn and 4 flags remain? Take 1, you leave 3 for your opponent, they win. Take 2, you leave 2, they win. Take 3, you leave 1, they win again. So leaving your opponent with 4 flags is a winning position. 4 is the first key number. Now step back further. How do you guarantee leaving your opponent with 4 flags? Simple. If you're facing 5, 6, or 7 flags on your turn, Facing 5, take 1, leave 4. Facing 6, take 2, leave 4. Facing 7, take 3, leave 4. But what if you're staring at 8 flags? Take 1, you leave 7. Your opponent takes 3, leaving you with 4. You lose. Take 2 from 8, you leave 6. Opponent takes 2, you're stuck with 4. You lose. Take 3 from 8, you leave 5. Opponent takes 1, you get 4. You lose again. So 8 is a losing number to face, which means leaving your opponent with 8 is a winning move. The second key number is 8. See the pattern emerging? The key numbers are multiples of 4. A smart strategist wants to leave their opponent facing 4, 8, 12, 16, or 20 flags. Back to the beginning. The game starts with 21 flags. Sukjai, moving first, could have taken just 1 flag. That would have left Chuai-gan with 20, a key number, a losing position. From that point forward, no matter what Chuai-gan did, Sukjai could have always brought the count down to the next multiple of 4. If Chuai-gan took 1 from 20, leaving 19, Sukjai takes 3, leaving 16. If they took 2, Sukjai takes 2. If they took 3, Sukjai takes 1. Sukjai had a guaranteed victory path from the very first move. But they didn't see it. They took 2 flags, leaving 19. They gave up their winning advantage on move 1. In fact, both tribes fumbled throughout, passing the advantage back and forth like a hot potato. But in the end, Chuai-gan understood the final key number, 4, and they claimed victory. This simple rule, look forward and reason backward, is incredibly powerful. But what about situations where you don't take turns? What about games where both players act simultaneously without knowing what the other chose? This brings us to one of the most famous and troubling concepts in all of game theory, the prisoner's dilemma. Imagine 2 criminal partners, let's call them Dick and Perry, get arrested. Police separate them into different interrogation rooms. The prosecutor visits each one with an identical deal. Here's the situation, the prosecutor says. We've got enough evidence to convict both of you on a lesser charge, which means 2 years in prison. But we want a confession for the main crime. If you confess and your partner stays quiet, you walk free. We'll use your testimony to put him away for 10 years. However, if you both confess, we don't need testimony from either of you, and you'll both serve 5 years. Finally, if you stay silent and your partner confesses, well, you're looking at 10 years. Let's climb inside Perry's head. He's sitting alone, trying to figure this out. He can't talk to Dick. He has to anticipate Dick's choice. He thinks, what if Dick stays silent? If I also stay silent, we both get 2 years. But if I confess, I walk free. So if Dick's silent, I should confess. But what if Dick confesses? If I stay silent, I get 10 years. That's the nightmare scenario. If I also confess, we both get 5 years. 5 is better than 10. So if Dick confesses, I should also confess. Notice what just happened. Regardless of what Dick does, Perry's best move is to confess. Confessing is what the authors call a dominant strategy. It's the best choice no matter what the other player does. Meanwhile, Dick's in the other room running through the exact same logic. He also realizes confessing is his dominant strategy. So what happens? They both confess, and they both get 5 years in prison. Here's the dilemma. If they'd both just kept quiet, they would have only served 2 years each. By each pursuing their own rational self-interest, they ended up in a situation that's worse for both of them. This isn't just a story about criminals. This game plays out constantly. Think of 2 gas stations at the same intersection. Each one thinks, if I drop my price just a bit, I'll steal all my competitor's customers. But the competitor thinks the same thing. So they both slash prices, and they both end up in a price war, making less profit than if they'd both kept prices slightly higher. Or consider political campaigns. If one party takes a moderate, centrist stance to attract swing voters, the other party feels forced to do the same to avoid losing that middle ground. The result? Both candidates sound almost identical, and voters with stronger convictions on either side feel ignored. This is the trap of the prisoner's dilemma. It shows us that when everyone acts selfishly, the outcome can be terrible for everyone. It raises a crucial question. If we're constantly caught in these dilemmas, is there any escape? The authors suggest the answer lies in changing the game. The one-time prisoner's dilemma is a hopeless trap. But in real life, we rarely play a game just once. We interact with the same people repeatedly. That gas station competitor will still be there tomorrow. Your political rival will be around for the next election. This shadow of the future completely transforms the dynamic. In the 1980s, a political scientist named Robert Axelrod ran a fascinating tournament. He invited game theorists worldwide to submit computer programs that would play a repeated prisoner's dilemma game. Each program would face every other program in 200 rounds. Some submitted strategies were incredibly complex. Some were designed to be ruthless, always betraying. Some were forgiving, some were random. But the winning strategy, submitted by psychologist and mathematician Anatol Rapoport, was one of the simplest of all. It was called tit for tat. Tit for tat's strategy was elegantly simple. First move, cooperate, be nice. Every subsequent move, just do whatever your opponent did on the previous move. That's it. If they cooperated, you cooperate. If they betrayed, you betray. You reward cooperation and punish betrayal, immediately and automatically. Tit for tat won the tournament not by crushing its opponents in head-to-head matches, at best it could only tie, but by encouraging mutual cooperation. It succeeded because it embodied 4 key principles. First, it was clear. Opponents could easily figure out its pattern. Second, it was nice. It never initiated betrayal. It never started trouble. Third, it was provocable. It never let a betrayal go unpunished. You couldn't mess with it without immediate retaliation. And fourth, it was forgiving. As soon as the opponent returned to cooperation, tit for tat immediately forgave the past and went back to cooperating. It didn't hold grudges. For a long time, tit for tat was seen as the ultimate solution to the prisoner's dilemma. But the authors point out a subtle, dangerous flaw. In the clean world of a computer tournament, there are no mistakes. But in the real world, misunderstandings happen all the time. Imagine 2 countries using a tit-for-tat strategy. Everything's peaceful and cooperative. Then one day, a border patrol on one side accidentally fires a shot. The other side sees this as betrayal and retaliates. The first side sees the retaliation as a new betrayal and strikes back. They're locked in an endless cycle of revenge. Each action is a perfectly logical response to the last, but the cycle can spiral into disaster. Think of the Hatfield and McCoy feud, or any long-running conflict where each side insists it's only responding to the other's aggression. Tit for tat is too quick to punish and not quick enough to forgive when mistakes happen. More successful real-world strategies often use something like tit for 2 tats. They let one betrayal slide, assuming it might have been a mistake. But if it happens again, punishment is certain. This idea of changing the game, not just playing the hand you're dealt, but actively reshaping the rules and incentives, is one of the most powerful concepts in strategy. It leads us to the idea of strategic moves. A strategic move is an action you take now to change the game to your advantage later. The most common form? Commitment. Think about New Year's resolutions. Most fail spectacularly. Why? Because the person who makes the resolution on January 1st, your calm, rational, future-oriented self, is playing a game against your future self, the one who's exhausted after a long day and spots a delicious chocolate cake. In that moment, the future self gets the final say, and temptation almost always wins. A commitment is how your present self ties the hands of your future self. It's about making it impossible, or at least very costly, to back down later. The authors were involved in a TV program that used a brilliant and terrifying commitment device to help people lose weight. Participants, all overweight, agreed to be photographed wearing nothing but a tiny bikini. The deal was straightforward. Lose 15 pounds in 2 months. and the photos get destroyed. Fail, and the photos air on national television. Suddenly, the choice wasn't between eating the cake and not eating the cake. It was between eating the cake and having my ex see me in a lime green bikini on national TV and not eating the cake. The commitment changed the future game's payoffs. The shame of public exposure was far more motivating than distant health benefits. And it worked. Almost everyone lost the weight. This idea of gaining power by limiting your own options is a recurring theme in strategy. The ancient Greek general Xenophon famously positioned his army with their backs against an impassable ravine. He deliberately removed their option to retreat. Faced with victory or death, his soldiers fought with ferocity they might not have otherwise had. Similarly, when Spanish conquistador Hernán Cortés landed in Mexico, he burned his own ships. He sent a crystal-clear message to his men and his Aztec opponents. There was no going back. Commitments are powerful because they're unconditional. You just do them. But there are also conditional strategic moves, threats, and promises. A threat is essentially saying you'll punish someone if they do something you don't want. A promise is offering to reward someone if they do something you do want. The problem with both? Credibility. Why should anyone believe you? Think back to Adam and Eve. God issues a threat. If you eat from the tree of knowledge, you will surely die. Clear threat. But the serpent whispers to Eve, you won't die. The serpent's questioning God's threat credibility. Why? Because carrying it out would cost God dearly. He'd have to destroy his own creation. Turns out, the serpent was right. Adam and Eve were punished, but not killed. God's threat wasn't fully credible. If you make a threat that's incredibly costly for you to carry out, your opponent might call your bluff. So how do you make a threat or promise credible? The authors lay out several paths. One is staking your reputation. When President John F. Kennedy declared during the Cuban Missile Crisis that a missile from Cuba would be treated as a Soviet attack requiring full retaliation, he put America's reputation on the line. Backing down would have signaled weakness to the entire world. Another path is creating an automatic, irreversible process. This is the idea behind the terrifying doomsday machine in Dr. Strangelove. The Soviets build a machine that automatically triggers worldwide nuclear holocaust if they're attacked. Because the response is automatic, there's no human weakness, no chance of backing down. The threat becomes completely credible. But this leads to an even more subtle and dangerous strategy, brinkmanship. This is the art of manipulating shared risk. Schelling, one of game theory's pioneers, explained that the brink of war isn't a sharp cliff, it's a slippery slope. A credible threat isn't, if you do that, I'll push us both off the cliff. A credible threat is, if you do that, I'll move us closer to the edge, where the footing's loose and there's a chance we might both fall off by accident. You're deliberately creating a risk that something terrible might happen, a risk outside your direct control. During the Cuban Missile Crisis, Kennedy didn't threaten immediate full-scale nuclear attack. He established a naval quarantine of Cuba. This was the first step down that slippery slope. It created a situation where a mistake, an accidental shot, could escalate into full-blown war. He was forcing both himself and Soviet Premier Khrushchev to face shared risk. The goal of brinkmanship is finding a risk level that terrifies your opponent but remains tolerable to you. Khrushchev looked over the edge, didn't like what he saw, and backed down. These strategic moves, commitments, threats, promises, are all about changing the game before it's played. But what if you don't have perfect information? What if you don't know what your opponent's truly capable of, or what they really want? This is where the game becomes one of information, of signals and screens. The guiding principle here is simple. Actions speak louder than words. Anyone can claim they're selling a high-quality used car. But if a seller offers a 6-month warranty, that's different. Offering a warranty is a signal. Why? Because it's far more costly for someone selling a low-quality car, a lemon, to offer a warranty than someone selling a high-quality car, a peach. The lemon seller knows they'll likely pay for expensive repairs. The peach seller is confident the car will run fine. This difference in cost makes the signal credible. The seller's putting their money where their mouth is. This is why a college degree acts as a signal to employers. It's not just about specific skills learned. It's that surviving 4 years of rigorous academic work is generally easier and less costly for people who are intelligent, disciplined, and motivated than for those who aren't. The degree signals these underlying qualities. Sometimes the uninformed party makes the first move. A screen is a test set up by the player, with less information to get the other player to reveal their type. Remember Sue from earlier? She wanted to know if her boyfriend was truly committed long-term. His words weren't enough, so she created a screen. She asked him to get a tattoo with her name on it. If he was truly committed, the tattoo was romantic. If he wasn't, it was an embarrassing liability for future relationships. The action's cost differed depending on his true intentions. He refused, revealing his type, and she moved on. Of course, once you understand signaling, you also need to understand signal jamming. This is the art of concealing information by mimicking signals of another type. In poker, you can't just bet high with good hands and low with bad hands. Your opponents would figure that out instantly. You have to bluff. You sometimes bet high with bad hands and sometimes bet low with good hands. You mix your plays to keep opponents guessing, to jam the signal your bet would otherwise send. And this brings us to one of the most counterintuitive ideas in strategy: deliberately using randomness. In some games, any predictable pattern can be exploited. Think of a penalty kick in soccer. If a kicker always aims for the goalie's left, the goalie will just start diving left every time. If the kicker alternates left-right, the goalie figures that out too. The only way for the kicker to prevent the goalie from anticipating his move is being unpredictable. He needs a mix strategy. He has to choose his shot randomly. But what's the right mix? 50-50? Not necessarily. The brilliant insight of game theory is you should choose your mix to make your opponent indifferent between their choices. The kicker should choose probabilities of kicking left and right such that, from the goalie's perspective, diving left or right offers the exact same success chance. When the goalie's indifferent, he has no way to exploit the kicker's choice. And amazingly, when professional soccer and tennis players have been studied, their choices in these situations are astonishingly close to the optimal mix predicted by game theory. This need for unpredictability isn't just for sports. It's why the IRS uses random audits. If they published exact rules for who gets audited, everyone would follow those rules just enough to avoid audit and cheat everywhere else. A small chance of a large penalty is far more effective and efficient than a guaranteed small one. So far, we've explored turn-taking games, simultaneous action games, cooperation games, conflict games, and information games. But there's one final category: games of coordination. Sometimes the problem isn't that our interests conflict. It's that we share an interest in coordinating our actions, but we can't communicate to decide how. Economist Thomas Schelling, who won a Nobel Prize for his game theory work, posed a simple problem. Imagine you and a friend are supposed to meet in New York City on a specific day, but you forgot to agree on a time and place. Where would you go? Most people, after thinking a moment, converge on an answer: noon, at the information booth in Grand Central Station, or perhaps under the clock. Why? Because it's a focal point. It's not just that you think of it. It's that you know your friend will also think of it, and you know your friend knows you'll think of it, and so on. This convergence of expectations allows coordination without communication. But what happens when we coordinate on the wrong thing? Look at the keyboard you're using. The top row spells out QWERTY. This layout was designed in the 1870s for manual typewriters. The goal was placing the most commonly used letters far apart to slow down typists and prevent keys from jamming. It was intentionally inefficient. Today, with modern computers, key jamming isn't an issue. Engineers have designed far superior layouts, like the Dvorak keyboard, that are faster and more ergonomic. But we're stuck with QWERTY. Why? It's a coordination trap, because all keyboards are QWERTY. That's what we all learn. And because we all learn QWERTY, manufacturers keep making QWERTY keyboards. No single person or company has incentive to switch on their own. We're locked into an inferior standard because of historical accident. This happens constantly. It's why we drive gasoline cars instead of potentially superior steam or electric ones, which lost out in the early 20th century due to historical flukes. It's why changing social conventions can be so difficult. Sometimes these coordination games have a tipping point. Schelling also developed a famous model of neighborhood segregation. He showed that even if every single person in a city is racially tolerant and would prefer living in an integrated neighborhood, the city can still end up almost completely segregated. Imagine a neighborhood that's, say, 70% white and 30% black, and everyone's happy. Then, by random chance, a couple white families move out and are replaced by black families. The mix shifts slightly. Some remaining white families, even without prejudice, might start feeling a bit uncomfortable being in a shrinking minority. A few more might decide to move. As they do, the neighborhood tips. A chain reaction begins, and soon the neighborhood becomes almost entirely black. The same dynamic can happen in reverse. The surprising and tragic result is that individual, rational choices, even without malice, can lead to a collective outcome nobody wants. Breaking out of these coordination traps often requires a coordinated push, a policy change, a new law, or a bold move by a major player to establish a new, better focal point. As we reach the end of our journey through the art of strategy, it's easy to feel slightly overwhelmed. We've talked about game trees, prisoners' dilemmas, threats, signals, and focal points. It might seem like a toolkit for a cold, calculating, manipulative view of the world. But I believe that's the exact opposite of the book's true lesson. The fundamental insight of game theory isn't about outsmarting or tricking people. At its core, it's a profound lesson in empathy. Strategy isn't about being selfish. It's about understanding the world doesn't revolve around you. It's about having the wisdom to step outside your own perspective and see the world through another person's eyes, to understand their incentives, their knowledge, their fears, and their goals. A bad strategist only asks, "What should I do?" A good strategist asks, "What will they do in response to what I do?" But a great strategist asks, "What do they think I think they'll do?" It's this ability to navigate the intricate dance of expectations that separates true strategic masters from everyone else. This book isn't a manual for winning at all costs. It's a guide to understanding the structure of interaction. Sometimes that understanding helps you compete more effectively. But just as often, and perhaps more importantly, it helps you find ways to cooperate. It shows you how to build trust, how to make credible promises, and how to escape the lose-lose traps that our own narrow self-interest so often sets for us. So how can you start applying these powerful ideas in your own life, starting today? Here are 3 simple practices. First, practice the backward look. Next time you face an important decision, whether it's negotiating curfew with your parents, choosing where to apply to college, or preparing for a job interview, don't just think about your first move. Take 5 minutes and map out the future. Ask yourself, if I do this, what will they do next? And after that, what's my best move? Forcing yourself to think just 2 or 3 steps ahead can radically change the decision you make today. Second, learn to identify the game. Next time you're in a disagreement or negotiation, pause and ask, what kind of game are we playing? Is this a one-shot game where I'll never see this person again? Or a repeated game where my reputation matters? Is this a prisoner's dilemma where we're both at risk of a bad outcome? Or a coordination game where we both want the same thing but just need to get on the same page? Just naming the situation can clarify your thinking and reveal new paths forward. Third, always find your best alternative. Before entering any negotiation, clearly define your best alternative to a negotiated agreement. your BATNA. What will you do if you simply walk away? That alternative is the true source of your power. It's not about bluffing or being aggressive. It's about knowing, with quiet confidence, what you'll do if the other side doesn't meet your essential needs. Seeing life as a series of games doesn't make it trivial. It does the opposite. It makes it more meaningful. It reminds us we're not just passive observers of our lives, but active players. We have choices. We have agency. We can understand the rules. We can anticipate the future. And sometimes, if we're wise and creative enough, we can even change the game for the better. Not just for ourselves, but for everyone playing. That was a summary of The Art of Strategy by Avinash Dixit and Barry Nalibuff. We've touched on the core ideas today, but I'll be honest with you. A summary is like looking at a travel brochure. It can show you beautiful pictures, but it can't replace the feeling of actually being there. The real magic of this book happens when you read it yourself. It's in those quiet moments when a particular story or simple phrase connects with a problem in your own life in an unexpected way. This summary is designed to help you decide if this book is worth your time. If anything we've talked about today has sparked your curiosity, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning. It's an experience that can genuinely change how you see every interaction in your daily life. A link to the book is in the description. Also, if you found this journey valuable, please take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It lets me know these explorations are making a difference, and it ensures you won't miss our next dive into another life-changing book. Let's keep learning and growing together.